So my name's Jason. I was in advertising for 10 years, mostly in London before moving to Sydney 6 years ago. My role there was to manage the creative resources in the studio. So I was the person who was kind of the gatekeeper for recruitment for the studio. So if you were applying for a role, it had to go through me before I passed it on, or I was the decision maker sometimes. Last year, I started my own recruitment business, focusing on advertising and a large push on design and creative resources still sticking with the advertising sector. It's a difficult market, just to scare you and put you off. Very competitive. For a design role I post, I can get from 50 to 150 resumes just for one role. So whilst you might be sitting next to a mate, they could also be the competition that you have to beat out for these roles. And to get through this, I scan things. So I kind of have a 30-second rule that I look over everything with. So that could be your cover letter, portfolio, and your resume. And just that 30-second snapshot is all it usually takes me to decide if that's somebody I want to meet or not the right role for you, or you might have just applied for the total incorrect job. So start off is the cover letter. Main thing is it's not an essay. Nobody wants it too long. It should never be on 2 pages. 3/4 a page, about the max you want to have it. You need to cover the who, what, where, and why. Who you're sending the resume to, what kind of company it is it a recruiter, is it direct to the agency, what role you're applying for. Sometimes places could have more than one role you're applying for, so make it clear what role you're specifically applying for. Where it is very good. You need to make sure it's somewhere convenient for you to get to. If you live in the northern beaches, a role in Parramatta is not going to be ideal for you, just for a work-life balance thing, because that's the buzzword at the moment. And why? Sometimes you might be proactively sending your resume into a role. Let them know why you're doing it. Often I will get somebody who sends me a resume. They know they're not right for it, but they're just trying to do it just to get on my radar, to get on my books. But sometimes they don't say that, and they've totally just applied for the wrong position. Always just cover those bases in your cover letter. You need to make your cover letter interesting and be a bit creative. You guys are all in the creative space. It needs to start showing some of your personality from this as your introduction. And then research. And this goes back to the who you're sending your resume to. I've received several resumes over the year and cover letters where they'll address the cover letter, say, "Hi, I'd like to work with you as a graphic designer." Where if they actually read the job description, I would have mentioned a client that I'm posting that role for, and if they actually had maybe clicked on a link and just did a quick Google, they would have known I'm a recruiter. So the odds are I'm not actually bringing a designer in to work with me. You also need to do things like look at what kind of clients you might be across. I had a designer in London who, for ethical reasons, wouldn't work on BP because he didn't agree with their business model. So you might have things like that you want to consider. Cover letter can be a separate document, or you could have it in the body of your email. I personally don't mind either one. Some platforms you do have to apply for, though, do require it as a separate document. But if you're emailing me direct, I don't mind if you just have it slapped into the body of the thing. And another thing to make sure you do, maybe this is a tip, while you're putting together everything in your email, put the email of the person you're sending it to last. The last thing you want to do is accidentally hit send, and you haven't done changes like the copy and paste updates for the company, the position, or things like that. It's that whole first impression thing, so you really want to make sure you take your time to do it properly. The resume, your most important thing. This becomes your shop window. You need to keep it to the point. Things I would be looking for: profile, which should be just a quick summary, small little I guess, summary of what you put down in your cover letter. Experience, your education, and your skills. Especially in design, you need to be listing what kind of software, programs, or things like that you're used to. Your resume should be in a PDF format. It's the most professional one to get. There are some platforms that do require a Word document, but most of those are kind of old school now. You wouldn't get most of those, but ideally, PDF document. And this is your first real opportunity to impress them with your design skills. You can be colorful, you can be creative, don't go overboard. Don't do anything with yellow and white font. I've had that before, very bad on the eyes. But this is your chance to start to shine and show what you can do. You can mix the branding, so you could have a website with some of your branding or logo on it, have that on your cover letter, have it on your resume, tie it all together, show that you understand the whole branding thing. And also it's your chance to work on layouts, so you can structure it and layer it in proper columns and things like that, instead of just a Word document where you just might list over 2 pages. A good designer should be able to get everything laid out properly on just 1 page. Interest and hobbies. Good to have, but it needs to not be the bog standard. Everyone likes to read books, go to movies, long walks on the beach. You need to be more interesting in that. I want to see things like they're a rock climber, you do flamenco guitar, anything that makes you kind of stand out, but also starts to show your personality and who you are. I remember somebody for a design role actually was a ranked gamer in Singapore. Not everybody, I've never seen that anywhere else before. So have those things. If you're going to include interests and hobbies, make it the interesting stuff and not the standard stuff everybody else can put in theirs. Test your links. Your resume should have hyperlinks to your LinkedIn, your online portfolio, and your email address. And it should open to a separate. Last thing you want to do is have a hyperlink, but then it just replaces your resume on their browser with your website. Have it open up separately. Test. Always make sure they work. Grammar, no excuse for grammar mistakes anymore. It's amazing the amount of spelling mistakes I still get in resumes. A lot of time because they've created it maybe in PowerPoint to export as a PDF. Always put it in the email body, have it as a Word document so you can change it up and then move it over to your other document, however you're finishing it off. References, don't put them on there. You shouldn't be sending personal contact details of anybody else out there. It's a very old school method. If anybody wants to hire you, they're going to ask you for your references anyway, so it just saves space. You don't need to waste on your resume. It could leave things to shine on other things. Couple examples. Ada is somebody I've worked with for years, very experienced senior designer. She's got her branding that matches the logo on her website, and it's very clear. Because she's been a designer for years, she doesn't have to go into long details of what she did in every single role. She keeps it nice and sweet on just 1 page. Hope is somebody I met recently, kind of a junior designer, but she does a very similar thing, keeps it very simple 1 page, keeps the same kind of branding she has on her website, which ties it all in. It's hard to read, you can't read it, but don't worry about that. It's more about the design and the look and feel of it to know what you're doing. Thing I like about what she does, she has the skills and she lists kind of where she is on those different skill sets. Yeah, she did include references. Oops, I should pick that up. The interview. This is one of those first impression is everything kind of thing. When people come to meet me at my office, I usually come from a side door and I could see them waiting in the reception lounge. Just in that walk over, usually I will know if I'm going to like this person or if I'm going to end up doing a courtesy interview for the longest 30 minutes of my life. You need to be prepared. Know where you're going for your interview. If you have time, do a dry run. There's nothing worse than being late for an interview and not knowing where you're going in a building, or if there's several buildings, where you're going. Know who you're meeting. With most of the people you will be interviewing with, they'll be on LinkedIn. So do some stalking, find out where they've been working, what kind of jobs they've done. Then you can also see like other things, details about the company, see the size of the organization they're working in. Don't know where that came from. Also, I wouldn't send them a LinkedIn request necessarily. That kind of gets too stalkerish. Where do we go from here? So that is line that. Cool, thank you. Dress the part. You don't want to go over and you don't want to go under. If you're applying for design role at Macquarie Bank, you'll need to be suited and booted. If you are meeting with a creative agency, smart casual is fine. Safer than sorry, but you don't want to do it too much and you kind of don't look like the part. I've had a designer meet me at my last agency in a wine shirt. It was totally fine, totally acceptable. It shows creativity, a little bit of fun, because I want fun people in my studio. What to bring? If you're going to bring a portfolio, you can either do it two ways. Either you're going to print something out, or you're going to have it on a tablet or desk or a laptop. If you're going to have it printed out, I would suggest having something more than just pages you're going to flip through. Hope, who I interviewed not too long ago, actually brought out a brochure that she had put together, and it was beautifully done. Everything was just laid out wonderfully, and she had little blurbs about what her role was on these projects and what she had done. It just made a little bit more of an impression than just flipping through books in a folder. If you are doing something on a computer or a tablet, I would recommend having it in PDF format. The amount of times that internet wasn't working, you can't log on to it, then you can't get to your website. Safer option is just have a PDF that you can take whoever's interviewing you through. Mirroring is a tricky one, but it's kind of good to know because anybody who studied HR and recruitment like I did knows this one. You're quite busy as it is in your interview, you've got a lot going on, but you also need to pay attention a little bit to the person you're talking to. Because you can really gauge how interested they are in you by their body language. If they're doing the arms crossed, you're probably not in a good space. But if you could slightly mirror some of their behaviors, how casually they're sitting and things like that, you're subconsciously with them making rapport that will make you stand out a little bit more than somebody who didn't do it. Always make your eye contact with these people, sit up straight. Nothing worse than slumped shoulders and somebody who's constantly looking at the floor. If you have questions, have questions when you go to an interview. I always recommend, especially for junior positions and sometimes mids, that they even write down their questions. The interviewing manager will actually have more respect for you because you had put that time and effort into researching and coming up with some good questions. And having it on a piece of paper, a lot of times if they'll ask you, do you have any questions about us? You've just been speaking for 45 minutes to an hour. Your brain is kind of turning into mush. You're not going to remember the questions you had. So have that piece of paper. It's going to actually earn you a little bit extra points. But you need to make sure it's the right questions. Don't just ask about the culture, things like that. Ask things about, is this a new role? What happened to the previous person in that role? Ask about training and development. Just really put some effort into those deeper kind of questions that shows you've actually put research into the organization you're meeting with. And one other tip, if they ever offer you a glass of water, take the water. That is an excellent way to pause and slow down the interview. If they ever ask you a tricky question, you need a little bit of pause, 30 seconds, think about it. Well, not 30 seconds, that's a long drink of water. It gives you a chance to pause it. It also gives you a chance to calm down if you're a bit nervous in an interview. The wrap up, follow up. If a recruiter sent you for the role, always let them know when you're done and have a quick chat so you get your feedback across and how you feel you went. If you met with somebody in the organization, wait till you get home, send them an email thanking them for their time. If you think it went well, ask about next steps and leave with them. It shows you still have interest in the position. And review what you did. Review and reflect on your interview. Think about what you did right, what you did wrong, what you can improve on, because you will have probably more down the line. And don't give up. It is competitive out there. Then I would say on average for a role with my clients I work with, I send a max of 3 candidates across. I never send more than 3 for a particular role. But that doesn't mean that they don't have another recruiter sending 3, that they don't have direct people coming across as well. So it could easily be 1 to 10 other people you're competing with for a role at least. And just remember, you have about that 30 seconds with your cover letter, your resume, and that first impression to kind of stand out and shine. And I can't stress enough that in your resume, in your cover letter, that's where you start to have to get your personality across. If I'm ever on the cusp of, do I like this person enough? I'll see what kind of got me interested. I've met more people that were off brief for a role because they had personality that came across in their cover letter and resume. And oftentimes I've been able to convince the client that they want to meet this person, even though they didn't tick all the boxes they were looking for. That's it. Good luck out there.
Are there any questions that you'd like to ask? I've got one.
Okay.
Photo on CVs, yes or no?
No.
No.
It's on your LinkedIn profile because you should have one. And if I want to really know what you're looking like, I'll go on that. It's a very European way of doing it.
It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should you really design your own CV because there's lots of templates around? Are you a no-no on using templates in design?
I'm fine on templates. The thing with templates, you need to rename your document because a lot of times it will say the university or wherever else you got it. I've had resumes that were titled somebody else's name. So it's just those little extra details you want to make sure you do it. It's not killer, but it's like attention to detail.
Would you suggest, like, if the layout was the same, you might change the colours so that when you get the CV across to you, can't just Google it? Because I was Googling some today and I thought, I've seen that one, and I've seen that one,
Yeah.
because they're just the same. I mean, you know, it's not looking good for a designer to just steal off these horrible Google templates. Go. Any other questions? You sure? You positive? Should the I've got loads because I want to fix up my CV. You never know when you're going to find that person who wants to know about you, and if you've got a CV ready to go, you can send it to them on the same day, and that's impressive. If you have to wait a week, they're like, who?
Yeah. The last thing you should be doing is, if somebody wants to see your resume, just updating a few details of your most recent role. Another thing I just thought of, a lot of people reuse their resume and they just keep adding to it. If that's the case, make sure you change the tense of your older roles so it's not sounding in the present. I've rewritten so many resumes for candidates because it's just shocking sometimes that they keep, especially more on, not so many designers, but more on the client service or marketing side, because they just keep adding to it. And they just keeps bumping it down, and they just don't change things. They don't change the font to make it match.
And that's the one thing that I find fun is when you find a job that you like, you're so excited that you want to send your CV off straight away, but you might not have checked it those 2 or 3 times that you should have checked it, and suddenly it goes off and you realise, I've spelt that word wrong, or I've done something else that's really dumb. You know, I often think it's good to wait till the next day so that you can have a look at it with fresh eyes and go, right, what would I think? Imagine yourself, you are the employer who is looking for a person with these skills, and then reread your resume and say, am I that person? Because if you're not, then you might be wasting your time. And it just might take a tweak here or there to improve the whole thing.
And at least one other person needs to read your resume before you send it off, just to make sure it's all sense checked. And also emails, if you're emailing somebody, if you know who posted the role because they have their email address there or they have their name attached to it, address the email to them. None of this dear sir / madam stuff. don't want to see that. If you don't know, I prefer people who send an email to me, hi Digi Pool. If they don't know who it is they're sending it to, then that either sir and madam thing.
Is it worth phoning up the company itself and just asking who I should send it to?
You can do that. It's tricky sometimes to know because
Hard to
a lot of
get
these
past.
organizations, they don't even answer phones sometimes, but it's worth a buzz.
Oh, cool.
I have a question as well. For entry-level designers that may not have the vast amount of experience to this on their resumes, how can they sort of, what are some of the things they should be doing when they're expressing that we provide a candidate,
Yep.
as well as do they add experiences that may not be design related, for example, if they work as a local barista or not?
There's definitely two ways. I would prefer entry level who don't actually have enough practical experience. I don't mind seeing that they've actually held jobs before to show they actually know how to work with other people, work as a clerk in Kmart, whatever it is, because they at least know how to interact and deal with other people. Then of course, if you get your first role, then you can take those kind of irrelevant skills off of your thing. If you have your work placements and work experience, obviously top of your list, because that's going to add credibility to what you can or cannot do. There's all kinds of different ways to start, getting that work experience. Volunteering your time to charities in their design departments. There's all different kinds of ways to get that foot in the door type of thing. But I'd rather see some work experience than none.
Cool. If there's no other questions, we'll say thank you very much to Jason. Thank you very much.